In other news, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán announced on Tuesday that his country will soon be opening a trade office in Jerusalem with diplomatic status. And the move, which has been praised by Israeli leaders, is directly in line with Prime Minister Netanyahu's stated mission of getting the whole world to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Now, the question now then is how this and similar decisions will affect the Middle East, relations with the Palestinian Authority, and the future final status of Jerusalem. And joining us now in the studio for more is Davidi Hermelin, the president of the International Center for Public Diplomacy in Israel. And joining us via Skype, we have Professor Shlomo Shpiro, the director of the European Institute of Bar-Ilan University. Gentlemen, thank you both very much for joining us today.
Shalom.
All right, now, Professor Shpiro, we're actually going to start with you. How close do you believe Netanyahu is to realizing his dream of a recognized, unified Jerusalem?
I think the process of recognizing Jerusalem diplomatically will take many years, but it's an unstoppable process. And the encouraging thing is to see a member of the EU, Hungary, now moving in a direction which is contrary to official and unofficial EU policies. The Hungarians are being cautious. They're not moving the embassy. They're opening, first of all, a trade delegation with diplomatic status. It's less than an embassy, but it's a very encouraging sign. But it's clear that this process is going to take many, many years, and it's going to be up to the next government, perhaps even the one after that, to continue this very, very positive trend.
Davidi, bouncing off of that, first of all, how do you respond to the new announcement? And second of all, do you believe that do you agree that this is kind of a sign of a positive trend that other countries will follow?
Of course, and we can see that Hungary is not the first country, and actually Hungary does not recognize the unification of Jerusalem, sure, but recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. So this is first step. Other countries will make this step soon. And hopefully, sooner or later, they will recognize also the reality that United Jerusalem is the capital of Israel and only of Israel, because as it seems now, Palestinian state will never be.
I see. Now, Professor Shpiro, back to you. I want to ask you, as more nations start to move their embassies or diplomatic missions or other such offices into Jerusalem, in what way, if any, does it reduce the chance for peace with the Palestinians?
I don't think it affects the chance for peace, because peace at the end of the day is going to be made by Israelis and Palestinians themselves. But what it does do is reduce anti-Israeli voices, especially in Europe, but in other countries as well, by recognizing the true facts on the ground. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel and has been the capital of Israel for 71 years. Most people in the world were born after the establishment of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and most people do not understand what kind of strange policies their governments follow by not recognizing a fact that has been established for decades and decades.
And you don't believe that the Palestinian Authority or their supporters will see this as a unilateral move?
I don't think there's any unilateralism in that. It's simply recognizing facts. And moreover, it brings back the Europeans as potential partners for peace, as potential mediators. In previous decade, the European Union has distanced itself from the conflict in Israel and Palestine. And now, with these kinds of recognitions, anti-Israeli voices within the EU are on the decline, and the EU may take its rightful place back in the coming years in any form of negotiations.
Davidi, would you agree with that? Because in Europe, we're seeing a lot of, often, at least in the news, we're seeing a lot of anti-Semitism and a lot of, things going the opposite way. So would you agree that anti-Semitism is in the decline?
Many years, people told us that the only way to achieve peace is to develop hope amongst the Palestinians. And I'm one of those who think totally in a very different way. Because as long as the Palestinians have hope to establish a Palestinian state, there will never be peace. These kind of steps, like recognizing unilaterally Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, it will kill the hope of the Palestinians. And as long as the Palestinians have hope that Israel will not exist, or that they will have their own state, independent state, there will never be peace. So killing the hope is the key word for achieving peace. That's what I think.
And Professor, anything to add to that?
The real problem of the European Union now is a problem of identity. We are seeing Britain, through the Brexit, leaving Europe. We are seeing political parties, strong political parties all over Europe, speak the unspeakable. And they are also anti-European and against the European Union. The European Union is struggling to find its own identity. And suddenly many people in the European Union are recognizing the fact that Israel has its own identity. Now, there's no denial that violent anti-Semitism is on the rise in Europe. And every day we are confronted with news about attacks, about the desecrations of graves and graffiti on synagogues and attacks against Jews. But we should also see this as desperate acts of a minority extremists that now realize the majority of Europeans become more and more pro-Israel. We are seeing political support for Israel in Europe on a level that we have never seen before, especially in Eastern Europe. This should be certainly a very important development. As I said, Europe is getting back slowly to its right shape and possibly slowly also to its right place in mediating in the Middle East. Anti-Semitism and violence will never disappear. It is a police problem, it is a social problem, but as the European Union gripes with its own identity, they recognize that we are entitled to our own.
All right, Professor Shpiro and Davidi Hermelin, thank you both very much for coming in today and sharing with us.
Thank you.